Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, I'm about to give my commentary on a 1 versus 1 2000 ELO Plus rated arena game as part of my weekly Twitch TV live streams. If you like my commentary, I encourage you to check out my Twitch stream. I do live stream there every week. You can find the schedule there by scrolling underneath the video player or by following me on Facebook and Twitter. During this game, as usual, I'll be giving you all my commentary and analysis on the civilization choices and strategies. And in this specific game, I decided I'd like to talk a little bit about the Italians. Get some footage of them. Thank you so much, T90 Official, for hosting me with, wow, almost 700 viewers. Seriously, I really appreciate it. Huge host from Mem today earlier, which means so much to me, and another one from you, man. The support from the community has been phenomenal. Thank you all so much. I really, really appreciate it. You know, right now, I am in a little bit of a tricky, currently as this recording, a little bit of a tricky financial situation. So, if anyone is able to check out my Patreon, social media, and YouTube channel, that would be really appreciated. I will post those links in the Twitch chat, as I do upload on YouTube regularly. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. But of course, let's talk a little bit about the game for a moment here. It looks like it's going to be AkenoNoHimejima, and he will be playing as the Huns versus Pete26196 playing as the Purple Italians. A 1 versus 1 on the map arena, and this is going to be an exciting game. A very, very exciting game indeed. Now, I've been recently I'm going to be doing a massive shift in the way I do content and experimenting with that across December and January. So if you were previously a fan of my work, but eventually you got kind of bored of the repetitive nature of it, I encourage you to, come back in about 2 weeks when I've got that all sorted out, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at some of the changes. For example, I am better differentiating between the content that I do for more advanced players and the content that I do for newer players. So that way there's something for everyone to watch. I'm going to be doing a lot more expert game casting as well, perhaps even with, hopefully, T90 Official, MemTV, Zero Empires, Nilferret, etc., the works, the laundry list. I can't name everybody here. Looking forward to doing that. More tutorials and whatnot on the way as well. But for now, it's a 1 versus 1 arena game. Still going to be doing community games, by the way, because some people like the crazy community games. But in this case, this is going to be a competitive one that's going to be more tailored toward the advanced player side of things. Those of you who are aware that you should put the first 6 villagers in sheep and then build a lumber camp and put like 4 villagers in it. So, since this is a more advanced style video, the players in here actually have a very high skill caliber, let's first talk about the most obvious thing here, the map. This is a very unfortunate map for our friend Pete, but he is very much used to it. I guarantee you he is extremely jaded. So, let's talk about the list of reasons why this map is bad, and the list is long. For those of you who have an alcoholic beverage with you, you may take a very tiny sip for every reason I list. So, 1, his secondary gold is outside of his walls, which is prime real estate for a castle drop. Very common strategy on the map arena. His main gold is forward. This isn't too bad. I think that a sip is acceptable for this because this does, again, let's say a castle drop happens over here. This gold will be threatened because the military units will be pressuring this area. So, well, surely Pete has a safe gold mine then, right? This is kind of safe, but it's not safe enough. Oh, well, he has 2. That's fantastic. Except he can't access them because that's just how the cookie crumbles, my friends. He can't access them until he cuts through these 2 trees, which is an absolute disaster. His secondary stone is also behind this tree line, and his main stone is actually relatively safe, but these zebras are almost impossible to lure. However, Pete does actually have very good unit control, so I think you will be able to do this. Notice how the zebras were kind of boxed into a corner, so it's going to take some very good micro. So let's take a quick look at how well Pete's zebra lure is. Ben Cyrus says, gotta love the crazy community games. I do too, man. Sam Vidi says, hey, Resonance, any ideas on stupid games for later streams? Well, I'm always open to your ideas, so please do leave comments on my YouTube channel and then in the Twitch chat. I was thinking after this, maybe we do a free-for-all sudden death of some sort. I think would be pretty great. MBL is even hosting me now for 70 viewers. Thank you so much, MBL, for the host, too. I really, really appreciate it. I hope that I can convince Salati to stick around. I am an Age of Empires 2 caster as well, and I do cast expert games regularly, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of that in the future. My gimmick is I try my best to explain difficult to understand concepts in as clear of a way as possible to try and lower the barrier to entry to the game, so I offer new player tips and also expert player tips. But this one is mostly going to be focused on more advanced strategy. This is a 1v1 arena game. The general idea being here, we're not going to see too much combat action between the two players until the Castle Age because both of them start with stone walls. But Pete is using his scout unit right now, which isn't it's not that valuable to have your scout on arena and water maps in the early game to scout the enemy base because you can't because they're blocked by walls, obviously. So you should be using your scout here to lure the deer units if at all possible. Pete's really going to struggle with this last Uber, by the way, but wow, are you seeing this? This is honestly very impressive, and it's these little things that actually give you the eco lead that you need to really snowball a game out of control. So I'm very impressed with Pete's deer luring. And yeah, he's going to be putting out a secondary lumber camp. This is another little efficiency trick that you can do, is that once you get about above 4 or so villagers, typically speaking, it becomes very inefficient, progressively more so the more villagers you tack on, as they will just clump up on each other. And it gets worse and worse and worse, so make sure to continually rebuild your lumber camps. As far as mill positioning goes, I think actually it's debatable how he should have positioned his mill. I think that this is potentially one of the better ways to have done it, the way it's set up, because if he clears out the first 3, then he gets the most efficient possible way of gathering these. And even though those villagers did have to walk all the way around, this is actually still very efficient, so kudos to him here. I think the only thing I would have changed about Pete's opening actually would have been building this lumber camp a couple tiles to the left, because you want to chop through these 2 trees as soon as humanly possible. Now, Pete might be waiting until the Imperial Age to get the Andrew technology to try and cut through this, or get a trebuchet and try and do that, but I think that I would have built a lumber camp there. You also generally want to build your lumber camp in a concave shape, if at all possible, because that way your lumber camp is surrounded on more sides by trees, so your villagers, again, spend less time walking. It's all about efficiency in these high-rated games. And you're playing against Akeno, who is an extremely efficient player, to say the absolute least. So, thank you so much, Urban Core, for the $6 as well. Really appreciate it. All the new follows. Looks like Daru Finn has subscribed. Thank you, Daru Finn. So many new followers. And Hypnotoad, Hypnotoadzy. Thank you as well. You've all been super duper helpful. I really appreciate it. I try to be a very interactive streamer, so even though I am focusing on the game, one of the nice things about casting, besides the fact that I get to enjoy watching my favorite game, is that I also get to answer your questions. So if anyone has any questions about the specific game or in general, feel free to ask me. I obviously won't be able to get to all of them, but I will, selectively pick the ones I can, and then any questions I miss, ask me during the break. So, what kind of build orders are we looking for these players? 2 villagers in gold? It's a very standard fast Castle Age build, but Pete does get his discount on his age advancing, so let's take a quick little look at his bonuses. Some of you might not be familiar with this, probably crashed the game, but don't worry about it. So advancing to the next age costs 15% less, which does allow him to save a couple of villagers when advancing, and more importantly get to the Imperial Age quicker, because advancing through ages gives you like a massive power spike. It always does. But particularly with the Imperial Age on a map like Arena, it's super essential, because trebuchets are the ultimate stall breaker, and you also get access to a very strong unit in the competitive metagame right now, the Condottiero, which paired with the fact that the Italians advance to the next stage cost 15% less, is devastating. The Condottiero is essentially like a champion unit that's a little harder to counter, that requires no prior upgrades to be good. That's really scary when you're combining it with a civilization that can get to him faster. So I expect to see the Condottiero rush being a potential strategy choice from Pete, but we'll have to see. 4 villagers on gold for each of them signifies to me that both of them are intending to compete for map control in the middle for monks. And this makes sense. We're playing on Arena. Games can go long because you start with stone walls, disincentivizing rushing, so going for some sort of like monks play is generally a very good idea. Grab some monks, mangonels for pressure. Monks plus mangonels is an excellent combination that covers each other's weaknesses quite nicely. Some players do actually opt into mixing a scout to attempt to pick off an enemy monk, and that can actually be quite effective, particularly if you have an Eagle Scout. I think the Eagle Scout is like a +8 bonus versus monks, which means they can kill them in 3 hits, which is really, really good. I'm not entirely sure what the Scout's bonus is, but I'm actually just going to check it right now because I can. Alright. What is the attack bonus versus monks? The attack bonus versus monks is 6, so the Scout has 5 attack, is against +2 in the Feudal Age. So it's going to be dealing 11 per hit. So again, kill the monk in 3 hits. Not bad, considering the monks passively heal themselves, so the slight additional damage actually helps quite a bit. So, Town Center coming down. These players are doing a fast castle age strategy, and if you want to master this build, then as I say very regularly, very nice. Pete does get the first strike here, allowing him to actually get that kill. If he did not get the first strike, then he would have lost his scout. And keeping your scout alive when you're dealing with monks in a map like Arena is very, very essential. Also gives you valuable scouting information. So if you want to master this fast castle age build and adapt this build order to, for example, play Arena and become as good as these guys, then I do have a fast castle age Night Rush tutorial on my YouTube channel. So you can kind of repurpose that build for really anything that's not necessarily a feudal age rush. And with enough of financial support, I should be able to invest the time to actually making a Feudal Age Rush style video too, which is something that is certainly a high priority on my to-do list. Also happens to me all the time. Pete's waiting for that TC to go up so he doesn't get housed, but it doesn't really matter. Yeah, see, he's smart. He's going to use this as an opportunity to grab Loom. By the time Loom finishes, boom, the town center's down. He's going for a 2 TC, 1 monastery opening, fairly standard, and then now he should have enough resources for the third one. See, it's important that he has his scout alive here because scouting vision is everything in higher rated Age of Empires 2. Is absolutely everything. Johnny Mad Magic, thank you so much for subscribing to Twitch Prime. Hope to see you in the future, my friend. So, AkenoNoHimejima, he's playing in the dark. And you never want to be when you're playing against any competent player. When you're playing against a lower rated player, if they don't know what they're doing, what's the point of scouting them, am I right? But if you're playing against someone as good as Akeno, who is very good, then you definitely want to know what he's doing. And his build is different. He's actually going for a double monastery opening and then delaying his 2 initial town centers. And Pete is aware of this, so now he has some options. Pete's going to have an economic lead. This is how you have to analyze the game. And Pete, the good news is since he has his scout, he can look at it from a bigger picture perspective like I get the pleasure of doing as a caster, which you don't normally get to do because the players have limited information. Now he's like, okay, well, I have a relic next to my base, that's good. I might be able to snag this one first. I think he will be able to, because where's Akeno going? Akeno's going over here. And again, this is why keeping your scout alive is so goddamn important on Arena, because it kills a monk in 3 hits. Monks actually take a variable amount of time to convert a unit, and I believe the amount of time was normalized slightly in the expansions on Steam, so it's not so bad. Oh yeah, Akeno's actually going to prioritize the relic in his own base. Now, I actually don't normally recommend doing that, but I wonder if he's aware that there is... Oh, he's not aware that there's a relic there, that's why he's doing this. So, when I play Arena, I used to play a ton of 1600 plus Arena on Boobly back in the day, and generally I recommend going for the riskier relics first. Like, if you have one in your walls, you're not in any danger of losing it, and if you are... You're in danger of losing a lot more things, buddy. You're in danger of probably losing the game. So normally I would have gone for these 2 relics first. I would have been very aggressive with this. I may have even decided to put down a barracks even to make like a single spearman. But see, here's exactly what happened, right? He wanted to grab that relic, and the fact that scout cavalry was alive allowed him to kill that monk, and that completely changes the game. It does. Kill in 3 hits, and it's not often that the monk is able to get the full conversion off before the 3 hits come off, because the scout has a very respectable attack speed and a very fast movement speed, and it resists conversion, so it takes even longer to convert. This is huge. Losing your scout, this is something that pro players talk about all the time that mid to lower tier players never think about, is how important information actually is. And Akeno really committing to these monks. Now, let's take a quick look at his monk tech tree, because it's really lacking. And most notably, I want to point out the lack of redemption. So redemption means that he cannot convert, most importantly, enemy mangonels. So committing heavily to a monk strategy could prove to be disastrous. And Pete, if he is like Okay, I was about to say, if he is hot fire, he'd have picked off that monk right there. But I don't think he saw that, and you know, he's not an octopus, so there's no way he could possibly manage all those. Here's what's interesting, though. So Pete, from a relic standpoint, is doing pretty well. Akeno has only one, right? He used two. So, no, he's one. He can certainly get this other one, but he doesn't have a gate over here, which is quite problematic. He should actually delete these two palisade walls and build a palisade gate. I think he's just not used to playing in the expansions, but actually I think that should have been a palisade gate in general. Yeah, it looks like he's just looking to do some raiding with monks. I know what you're thinking, raiding with monks? Yeah, it happens in pro games. Because you can just convert an enemy villager and then have them commit honorable Sudoku and have them fight the other villagers. And it works. Yeah. You force a garrison, and... So here's the tricky thing, though. 6 range in the town center is not very long, and 9 is much better to allow for conversion, but the monk is naturally going to walk towards the wall to try and threaten that conversion, and then as a result, Pete will bait you underneath his town center. He's going to bait you and outsmart you, because he's a siren. And Akeno, losing a monk there, attempting a conversion, it failed. Where has this villager rallied to? So you want to build an outpost here? We'll have to see. I mean, okay, Akeno has map control, and it's not a big blow to his economy to spend all this gold. It's not a big deal. And he's going to mix in a siege workshop now to start applying additional pressure. I'm going to use this brief opportunity to scan for any missed questions. Bunal asks, if you have to open your wall to get a boar, what is the best building to close it up again? Palisade walls are a house. Urban Cohort says Discord link for new subs. If your Discord and your Twitch, I believe if you're, okay, so on Discord, if you go to settings, use your settings, the gear icon in the bottom, and you make sure that you're connected to Twitch, you should automatically have an option to join my Discord. This is for Twitch subscribers, for Patreon supporters, for the people who, like, you know, allow me to continue being able to stream and produce YouTube videos. Thank you so much. I mean, all of you help, of course. And the people who don't use adblock, the people who leave a like, a comment, etc. For the Patreon subs, you just have to check your email, click the Redeem Rewards button. You may have to click it again if you clicked it like really early on during my Patreon, and it should show up in a few days. So, yeah, McKay says, yeah, I'm streaming on Windows 7, so the overlay doesn't work on Windows 7 currently, but I'll transition to Windows 10 soon with your help. I just no money right now. And Teres, thank you so much for the sub. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Is committing Sudoku is a bad pun. Alternatively, I could have said committing Subaru. Danish cabbage farmer. God, I butchered that. Welcome to the live stream. I know the overlay's not missing. FRA still, it doesn't work on Windows 7. I haven't upgraded to Windows 10 TM yet. But, you know, I obviously have to with the release of Age of Empires Definitive Edition and eventually the release of AoE4. And what happened here? Did a villager actually get converted and then die? Seems to be the case. So, let's do a brief little thing, compare pop. So, Pete's in the Imperial Age, that's really scary. And, oh my goodness. So, Pete has like no food, obviously, because he just went to Amp. He's at 81. And Akeno is a little behind in the pop department, but we knew this was a thing, right? Because the double monastery opening delayed the 2 town centers, so we expect them to be about 5 villagers behind, like on the dot. And since these players are good at this game, they know that the number one thing is to just not keep your town center idle, keep it always working. So yeah, I would expect about a 5 villager deficit, and there shouldn't be much of an Imperial Age deficit. Although Pete, since he has the discount on it, is able to save a little bit of cash and get up even sooner. So now the real question is, what's he going to do? Huns matchup, eh? What are the Huns going to do too? So did Akeno get that other relic? I got to check that. Oh, he's going to grab that now. Nice. I thanked Interos for the sub. Friends, thank you so much for 2 months resubs. It's been a blast. Keep up the good work, sir. Thank you for all the new follows. Really appreciate my friends. Really appreciate it. If you're a sub, you can get access to the Discord by going to your Discord, going to the settings, and make sure your Twitch and Discord are linked together. It'll give you an option. Thank you, FRA, still for subscribing. Appreciate it. I will upgrade to Windows 10 and improve my production quality as well as the speed of my stream. I mean, now that I am, at the moment of this recording, currently unemployed, I have the time to do that. I've been spending a lot of time recently, too much time on a series of balance discussion videos for my Patreon goals, so I need to figure out a better way to structure that, because everyone voted on the Eagle Warrior as the one that I wanted to cover, that they wanted me to cover first, and that is like a really complicated balance discussion, and the video is really long, and it's really good, but it's just a nightmare to produce. The amount of time that goes into producing that is absurd. So, I'm gonna have to think of a better way to do that. Both players in Imp, I mean, I'm gonna expect Paladins, right? Yeah, Paladins, Cavalier. So, one thing I want to point out, because this is a mistake that a lot of newer players make, and a mistake that I made for years. Now, granted, I had been playing the game online for like, how many years have I played this game online? I'm gonna say like 8, 9 years or something insane. It might be longer than 9 years. I've been playing this game online for a very long time. And initially when I started out, I remembered, you know, the 100 villager rule, but here's where things are a little bit different. You actually don't want to go to Imp before you reach your 100 plus villager goal. You actually want to start advancing to Imp around 80 villagers, and then continue producing villagers after that. Why? Because if you don't get to the Imperial Age before 30 minutes in a competitive game, it's okay if you're in a lower rated game, just focus on your economy, but in a higher rated game, oh, you're screwed, because he's going to get out the first trebuchet, and whoever gets out the first trebuchet is a huge advantage. Now, I think that the Huns having a very limited tech tree could prove to be potentially disastrous here, and one thing that is worth noting is that Akeno is doing a good job spending all of his resources, but he just does not have much cash in the bank. He's not going to be able to afford the Paladin upgrades. Very hard to do that in a 1 versus 1, but I like that he's going for Cavaliers. I do. Why? Because... ooh, can he send... if he, like, sends 1 Cavalier on this Mangonel, he's a micro-god. Doesn't look like he needs to be, though, to mop up this army. So why Cavaliers, right? It's not like the Huns get good horses. They get very good horses, I'm kidding. But it's not that simple, because the Huns have options. He could have gone for heavy cavalry archers. He could have gone for Tarkans. Tarkans would have been okay, but they would have been too slow. They would have been too slow. The Cavalier upgrade is so absurdly cheap that you need something fast. The Italians are a fairly scary late-game civilization to deal with, honestly, and everything Akeno is doing is very deliberate. First of all, max defense upgrades in the Cavalier, big early and power spike. Why do this? Because the Italians, they like to leverage their ability to get the Imperial Age quickly and at a discount with their super strong archers, which are buffed further by the Pavis technology, which adds additional armor to their foot archers, which is the Arbalest does not apply to the Skirm. It used to. That was really fun while it lasted, but it was not balanced. And he should be able to mop this army. Now, so people's just going for the standard build, like pressuring with the tread, and then going for arbs. That works 99% of the time, but here, potential misplay, and we're gonna see how he's gonna respond. I think that the Huns are one of the more predictable civs in AFC, and like really, Age of Empires 2 at a high level, and I try to explore this through my AoE2 Expert series. It's all about adapting, right? Now, Akeno has to be careful because, honestly, the difference in pop isn't that big, right? It's 133 versus I expect Pete to be behind. Yeah, he's behind by only 10 pop. Like, let's be clear. He has an Eco League, too. So what's he transitioning into? Is it going to be pikemen or is it going to be monks? I think monks are actually fine for him to make a couple extra. Cap Rams are just going to delete these walls, so that's bad. He has so much money. Okay. So, knowing that the Huns are a predictable civ, I know this build is fast, but you are faster than them because of the Italians. Remember that you have that age discount at all stages in the game. So, what I would have done, actually, is open up with elite Genoese crossmen, because, and this is, again, easy for me to say in retrospect, because when you're playing the game, you have a million things you have to manage. And that's why I do these videos, to point out the things that when you're playing, you wouldn't normally think about. But now, I've changed the mindset a little bit. Now you're going to look at this matchup and be like, okay, I know the Huns are predictable. I know that actually all of their powerful options are like heavy cavalry archers or paladins. They could go for like trash boat siege rams, but let's be real, who does that? That doesn't work very well. Wow, Akeno even expected this to be open, and it wasn't. This is going to be really problematic, because again, no gold mine here, and I told you this gold mine was in serious danger. So yeah, I'm feeling the Genoese Crossman unit, It's an archer unit with an attack bonus versus cavalry, and actually I think that just shits in the Huns. I think it's a very bad match for the Huns, but Akeno was playing it so well that he's making it look good. Now, if you are the Huns, what do you do to beat that? Because you only have mangonels, not onagers. Sucks, doesn't it? Huns not as insane as they once were. I like the Genoese Crossmen better, by the way, than the Arbs plus Pikemen combo, because this is Pikemen, not Halberdiers. The Huns do not get Halberdiers. And it requires a very different set of upgrades from the units that you want to do. This is another way you need to look at it, is how do you get the most value out of your limited resources? So, as the Italians, you have very strong ranged units. You have hand cannoneers, you have arbalists, you have elite skirmishers, you have elite Genoese Crossmen. So, you want to go down that archer range route, I think, a lot of the time. So going for elite Genoese Crossmen, like it just works. Even regular Genoese Crossmen, I think, slows this down. Pete did a good job defending that with a very well-placed defensive castle, but Akeno also did a really good job attacking by killing the monastery. And this is, again, where I would love to do like some kind of collab with Spirit of the Law where we like go over some of my more interesting moments in games. If I could just get my fans to keep track of them, and we can figure out like how much gold is lost in cases like these, or we analyze some bad trade lines in some of my replays. Because Spirit of Law is so good with his like in-depth math analysis, which, while it doesn't work for everything in AOC, is a talent that is super useful for quantifying, for example, how much gold was lost here, and wood, and just time. I'm very curious, but most importantly, I'd like him to analyze like inefficient trade lines in real replays. That'd be a super sick collab I'd love to do with him. But Spirit of the Law doesn't usually like to do collabs, but who knows, man, who knows. So I would open up with Genoese Crossmen. I think that's what I would have done. Pavis also applies to them too, making them quite tanky. Akeno, if you're wondering, like, how on earth could Akeno have such a insurmountable is the word, insurmountable lead, and not be able to leverage that and just blow Pete to smithereens? It's not that the Italians have cool architecture that kept him alive, it's that Akeno needed to stockpile resources for his paladin upgrade. And now he should have, yes, he's got about a 30 military unit lead. That's very significant. Pete's flexing too hard right now, by the way. He's flexing very hard. He's flexing straight into that castle, and that is not how you drop a mixtape in 2017. But the good news is, he's going to back out. It's okay. So I like Genoese Crossman. He's going to run into a problem where that's not going to be super viable for him anymore because he lost a castle, and with the amount of stone that you have in a game of AoE2, which is 3,150, or 149 if it bugs out, which it does all the time, that only allows you to build 4 castles without buying stone. It's going to be very hard for him to mass them up. I hope he continues production of them. I hope he considers monks. Good, he is going to put the relics back in. I just don't think that pikemen are that good here. Like, the difference in attack bonus between a pikeman and a halberdier is about 10, but I'm just going to check specifically just for you, because I can do that. So, 22 versus cavalry, and the halberdier is 32. So, wow, I was actually on the money, 10. I guess all these years of casting since I started the first Age channel back in 2009 have paid off. It's actually 10 damage difference. But that's where you're wrong, kiddo. Because the halberdier has +2 extra normal attack. So it's a +12. That's very significant when your units die really fast. So you're going to need the halberdier upgrade to actually deal with this. Pikemen do not trade that efficiently with paladins. They trade kind of efficiently with cavaliers, but to say paladins are a strong upgrade is an understatement of the century. Another reason why this strategy is so fast, by the way, and really scary is the Huns stables were 20% faster. Mixing cav archers, I actually kind of like this. I know that they die to the elite Genoese Crossmen, but the Huns heavy cavalry archers are one of your better bets at dealing with the Genoese Crossmen anyway, provided you have a shitload of paladins anyway, and you mix in skirms. The trick is to mixing in elite skirmishers in this matchup, actually. Why? Because elite skirmishers have an attack bonus versus pikemen, and they have an attack bonus versus the elite Genoese Crossmen. And you want the skirms in front of your heavy cav archers, which is actually hard to micro because the cav archer has 1 less range. So by default, your cav archers will try to go in front, so that's what separates the men from the boys, the good players from the bad. But yeah, that's very important in this matchup. He's just not recovering. I think he's getting a little too aggressive with these cap rams. I mean, I think these should be bombard cannons anyway. Like, you get chemistry. And you want to be sieging from a safe distance. I actually don't think that you can ever really go after the Huns, at least in this matchup with Rams in general, unless they open up with a cavalry opening, because the only good siege weapon that the Huns get is the siege ram. Yeah, he's just gonna resign. GG, well played. It is the siege ram unit, so, and they're gonna go for paladins a heavy amount of the time, so the cap ram's just not gonna work. Yeah, I think he should have probably opened up with Elite Genoese Crossmen. He actually got it, yeah, and he got full upgrades except for, I think, Pavis, which is fine. And he tried to go for pikemen, but as we saw here, the pikemen were not good enough, and they came out a little bit too late. The Arbalest opening, like, Pete did play this very, very well, but he got blitzkrieged by the Huns' speed. And Stables working 20% faster, by the way, also applies to the speed at which the Paladin and the Cavalier upgrade research. So it makes the strategy extra super deadly, and you have to be prepared for that in advance. If Pete was playing versus like any other Civ, I think he actually would have been just fine with such a strong opening, but he wasn't able to adapt soon enough. And a huge part of this loss as well, in addition to Akeno's immaculate play, which I hope you've all learned something from as how to play this, I would say, slightly unfavored matchup as the Huns. By the way, the reason that Pete resigned is because this gold mine was being threatened, and that's it. Besides Akeno's basically immaculate play, he did lose a monk, but was because the map generation was very, very bad for Pete and so much better for Akeno. So Akeno has this back area, back extra gold, which is huge, and he had a bigger space to build. And I talk about this a lot in my competitive arena games, where building space is a resource that doesn't come up too often, but notice how it forces Pete to build his barracks over here, out in the open, and you don't want to do that. He may have even been considering hand cannoneers based off these archery ranges, for example, but just another time, or skirms at least, just to try and throw some. Yeah, actually no, never mind. No, these were certainly for skirms, because he needed something to defeat the heavy cavalry archers, which is, again, correct and exactly what he wanted to do. I think Pete knew what he wanted to do, but he didn't have the time to do it, because he got surprised by how fast even though he got to him first, how fast the Huns were able to do that. And I think in that case, instead of trying to outspeed the Huns, you need to turtle them a bit and open up with, like, Elite Genoese Crossmen, I think, to try and sway the matchup. But it's a tough call to make, it is, and you have no scouting information, right? So there's no way Pete would have known that was coming. That's why a lower rated player would have put their stables along the wall, so that way Pete would know that the Paladins are coming, and he would have absolutely, in that case, made something besides Arbs, but Akeno put them around his TC. Not only protecting his economy, allowing him for an easy quick wall, potentially, but also just concealing that information. Super duper important. And as a result, he came out on top. But, Pete's map was really bad. He would not have been able to easily go for Elite Genoese Crossmen because he didn't have a secondary stone mine. This meant that he could only build 2 castles. And he put his castle over here. Why? Because he needed to protect this gold mine because his map gen sucks. Or, sorry, the castle was, like, over here. Was this the town center? I think the castle was here, right? Gotta go back and double check that. Regardless, his map gen sucked butt. If he wanted to go for Genoese Crossmen, he needed to get this stone mine, and even an extra stone mine. In fact, his map gen was actually insane if this wasn't closed off. And I think he should have built a lumber camp here, like, immediately, but early on in the game, I can't turn off Fog of War when the game is over. Early on in the game, your buildings have very low line of sight, and Pete's not dumb enough to research Town Watch super early, so he may not have known, because this is 3 tiles, right? Like, unless you like walk your scout along the edge there, he might not even have known that it was in there. I'm gonna read the chat now and answer a couple questions before we move on. Pete, were you aware that there was a 3-tile gap here? Because it's very possible, due to the limited line of sight of his buildings, that when he placed his initial lumber camps, he may not have seen that until later, and by then it might not have mattered. Like, by then the combat had already picked up. But if he built his initial lumber camp over here and he chopped through this, it may have allowed him for Genoese Crossmen to win that matchup. And that happens. Like, you gotta play to the map. So, in this case, full well knowing that, I mean, he needed to know that there was stone over here. He needed to know that. And go for that if he wanted to win. Perhaps he could have prepped out pikemen sooner. in anticipation of not being able to go for Elite Genovese Crossman. I still think that the Arbalest opening could have been okay, but yeah, his gold was just super unsafe. It was a rough matchup to play. I think he played it very well, and I think this was just expertly well done by Akeno. Again, what was interesting about Akeno's opening is that, you know, even though his monks, they don't have redemption right, they're terrible as the Huns, but he wanted map control, allowing him to do things like this. Secure this gold mine, put down a town center over here. The reason this is a town center and not a mining camp and a lumber camp is so he can garrison villas inside it to protect them, and then he can send some cavalry units over here to protect his villagers. So that's, again, a good play. Hopefully I said something interesting in here and you learned something from it. Let's see, miscellaneous questions. Hunter, I'll be streaming for quite a while today. Don't worry about it. Orlando says, I've been AFK for most of the game. Do you think the Italians are super favored versus the Huns past Castle Age? I'm not going to use the word super favored. I think they are slightly favored, but they are not super favored. No. Napoleon on the loser asks, I have an MS in engineering. We can model inefficient trade lines like electron movement. I mean, free path or with Wiener process. There may be other collision models that may be more suitable as well. Interesting. What I would like to know is just, you know, how much gold is lost when, you know, that one guy, because we all know that one guy builds, like, you have a market over here, and he builds his market, you have a market over here, and he builds his market in front of yours instead of the left or right, because people do that. You know, how much gold is lost? You know, how much gold is lost because there's some weird tree line or a couple houses blocking the way, etc. Those are the things I like to see, really researched. Pete says, I didn't think it was a back area. Bingo! Bingissimo! There we go. There we go. And mods, please be on the lookout for spoilers. Please be extra diligent about that. Yeah, so I suspect that Pete did not have Town Watch earlier and he didn't know this. So it was a lack of information that ultimately lost him the game. Because, yeah, you have a bad map, but you can adapt to it. But you need to know... You need to know where your resources are to be able to adapt to that situation. And I think Pete did adapt pretty well, but it made Elite Genovese Crossman a tough opportunity for him, certainly. I don't think a Condottiero rush would have been that effective here versus the Paladins plus potential for Cavalry Archers, so I understand why he wouldn't do that. But I think I would have prepped in advance with the Pikemen. Or with monks, but his gold's not very safe. But yeah, this is just, he just didn't know this was here, so. Yep, scouting wins games, my friends, and we saw earlier, like, Pete made excellent use of keeping his scout alive. So, please let me know in the comments below when I post this on YouTube if I said anything interesting that helped improve your overall quality of game, or just if you have any feedback. I always love to hear the things that people enjoy about my style, so it helps out a lot, so I can keep doing more of that. Thank you. Hope you all enjoyed watching this game. I think this was a really good one. A really good one indeed. And there's just so many, like, subtly good plays in there. Ooh, props for Pete, by the way, on capturing those relics early on. That was very significant. Hard to play that matchup with two castles, that's for sure. I think Akeno... Maybe Pete underboomed, like, a little bit. He was under a lot of pressure, but I think he underboomed a little bit. And then Akeno, the reason that he has 147, that might seem like he overboomed, but when you're making something like Paladins, that is actually fine. Because Paladins cost so much. So the amount of villagers that you want between 100 to, I would say, like 145 are going to depend on how expensive the units that you're making are. And the heavy cav plus Paladin combo is very, very pricey. P2s were cheaper, but I think he still did probably underboom that game a little bit. And also, having extra villagers like this allows him to sell wood and food at the market for gold to sustain his unit production, so quite nice. Quite nice indeed. And before we move on to the next game, let's see, I think I may have missed a few subs. I may thank people twice because I'm not sure if I already did. Antares, thank you for subscribing. I think I thanked you. Friends for 2 months. FRASL, yeah, I thanked you guys. Antares donated 100 bits. She said, finally catch your stream, blame a time zone. Oh, I hope to see you in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tipkey, subscribed for 2 months, says, thank you, Based Res Senpai, for the teach. Appreciate it, my man. For instance, in Germany, there's a game between the Viper and Rocket Beans. Got a lot of attention. Any chance to see commentary from you would be awesome. I plan to cast an expert game voted on by my Patreon supporters in the near future, so feel free to submit it on Patreon when I end up conducting that poll. And that would be one of the best ways to support me. It's possible. It's possible. You could check it out. I may just do it anyway. So, anyway, if you enjoyed watching this video, please stop trying to bypass the bot, by the way. Anyone that does should get timed out again and keep repeating it, like even joking about it. So, Mitsock, don't joke about it. I'm not going to time you out, but just don't try and bypass the bot and joke about it, alright? Don't do that. We're trying to protect everyone here, okay? So, just for this weekend. If you enjoyed watching this video, please do check out my YouTube channel, Twitch channel. I live stream every week. I'd love to have you here. It's scheduled on my Twitch page. I have Facebook and Twitter, where I also talk about when I'm live streaming next, as well as other important things. Yeah, I really appreciate those who take the time to support my variety content. It really helps grow the AoE2 community. Do a service for the community. Be a good person. Grow the community. And check out that content. And hopefully support me on Patreon as well. So, we'll be right back. Didn't you, or was it someone else? I'm sorry if it was someone else. Yeah, you did, Mitsock. You did. You totally did. You totally did. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. If you enjoy my style of commentary, I'd love to have you in future streams. We'll be right back. I'm going to take a brief break, okay? Need to rest my voice. Grab a glass of water. Please stay tuned.